The average age of managers in Europe's top 5 leagues is around 50 years old, with the vast majority being ex-players. However, in recent years the likes of Jose Mourinho and Leonardo Jardim have proven that to be an elite football manager, you do not need to have had a professional playing career. Their success has paved the way for a lot of 20 and 30 year olds looking to get into football management. So let's look at the top 5 managers who are 40 years or younger in world football. Starting off in number 5, with Werder Bremen manager Alexander Nuri. After a poor start to the 2016-17 season, in which die Grün-Weißen lost their opening 3 games and sat rock bottom of the Bundesliga table, first-team manager Viktor Skripnik was sacked. The man brought in to replace him was 37-year-old Alexander Nuri, their under-23s coach, originally intended to be a temporary replacement. However, Nuri picked up 7 points from his first 4 games, proving his ability both as a tactician and a motivator. Going into the winter break, the German-Iranian coach had lifted Werder out of the relegation zone and up to 15th, but his future was still not certain. Questions surrounding his managerial ability intensified as the Bundesliga restarted, following 4 consecutive losses, but then something brilliant happened. Nuri's side went on an 11-game unbeaten run, including an impressive 3-0 win over high flyers RB Leipzig, propelling Werder Bremen to an 8th place finish. A lot of this was down to their 3-5-2 system, which made the Green Whites, who conceded the second most goals in the 2015-16 Bundesliga campaign, solid at the back, as well as free scoring in attack. Nuri's man management helped striker Max Kruse rejuvenate his career, netting 15 times in the league. Thomas Delaney shone in midfield, and young winger Serge Gnabry did enough to earn a big money move to Bayern Munich. After taking Werder Bremen from rock bottom to just outside the European places, Alexander Nuri was handed a long-term contract, and he certainly has a bright managerial career ahead of him. In number 4 is Eddie Howe, who at 39 years old is the youngest manager in the Premier League. Howe took over at Bournemouth in January 2009, and despite being 17 points adrift, managed to steer the Cherries clear of relegation, securing their Football League status. The following campaign, they earned promotion into League One, and after a 2-year spell at Burnley, Howe returned to Bournemouth in 2012. By April 2015, he had secured another 2 promotions and brought the club he played for as a youngster into the top flight, earning the EFL Manager of the Decade award in the process. Since entering the Premier League, Howe has been lauded for what many people call playing the right way. Whether it's against Man City or Burnley, the Cherries always try to keep hold of the possession and play exciting attacking football. This is something incredibly hard to implement, with what is in comparison to the rest of the Premier League a poor squad, and you would feel that if he made the step up to a top half side such as Arsenal, this method would be even more effective. The Englishman usually sets his side up in a 4-4-1-1 formation, however he also adapts the personnel and setup based on the opponent. For example, he sometimes plays with pacey wingers out wide, such as Jordan Ibe and Ryan Fraser, and other times selects 4 central midfielders. This pragmatism was shown in their unfortunate 2-1 loss against Man City, with Howe adopting a 5-3-2 system so that they weren't overwhelmed and outnumbered at the back and in central midfield. Eddie Howe is undoubtedly England's brightest managerial prospect, and if he is given time and backing at a top of the table side, I have no doubt he will succeed and develop into one of the best managers in world football. Moving into the 3rd best young manager in world football, with Andre Villas-Boas, AVB has never played professionally, and found his way into the game at just 16 years old through his neighbour and FC Porto coach at the time, Sir Bobby Robson. When Jose Mourinho returned to FC Porto as manager in 2002, Villas-Boas compiled his opposition reports, which were instrumental in Porto's success. As Mourinho moved on to Chelsea and Inter, AVB followed, and the two became inseparable. However, the latter decided at the beginning of the 2009-10 season that he wanted to manage himself, taking over Academia in October 2009. After impressing there, he joined FC Porto in the summer of 2010 and led them through an undefeated season in the Primeira Liga, which they won by more than 20 points, as well as becoming the youngest ever manager to win the Europa League at just 33 years old. In the summer of 2011, he was acquired by Chelsea, and after that by Spurs. His time in England was mixed, as he got both sides performing well in spells, but ultimately couldn't lead either into the Champions League places. Villas-Boas later went on to Zenit, where he won the 2nd league title of his career, and is now managing at Shanghai SIPG, who sit in 2nd place in the Chinese Super League, and have a place in the Asian Champions League semi-finals. As you would expect from someone who spent so much time around Jose Mourinho, his style of play is based around a strong defence, and usually sets his side up in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. After spending so many years as an opposition scout, it's no surprise that AVB is a pragmatist, who adjusts his style based on the opponent. Having already coached at the top level for around 7 years, it's incredible Andre Villas-Boas is still under 40 years old, and while he may not be in the European spotlight at the moment, he never spends too much time at a particular club, and we could see him once again competing in the Champions League in the very near future. In number 2 is Paul Merson's favourite manager, Watford boss Marco Silva. Silva started off his managerial career at Estoril, and after impressing in the Primeira Liga, was snapped up by Sporting Lisbon in 2014. Silva, who was just 36 at the time, won Sporting their first piece of silverware for 7 years, but was sacked in June 2015 for not wearing the club's official suit in a game. 4 days later, he was appointed as Olympiacos manager, and he led the Greek club to their 43rd league title, with 6 games remaining, recording an incredible 17 straight league wins. On the 5th of January, Silva took over at bottom of the table Howe, who had started the season with just 14 players. Howe recorded 4 wins from Silva's first 4 home games, and although he just failed to keep them in the Premier League, he had proven himself to be an exceptional coach. This summer he was linked to a number of top flight sides, with Watford managing to pin him down on a 2-year deal. Up until yesterday's match versus Man City, the Hornets were unbeaten in the league, and will almost certainly be challenging for the European places come the end of the season. Unlike Eddie Howe, Marco Silva sets his side up to defend and hit their opponents on the counter, in what fluctuates between a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 and 4-1-4-1. Quick and creative wingers have been a hallmark of his time in England, with Sam Clucas and Richarlison excelling under his management. Silva also puts a lot of trust in youth, for example Harry Maguire at Hull, William Carvalho at Sporting and Nathaniel Chalobah at Watford. Marco Silva continues to show off his managerial ability in the Premier League, and if Watford stick with him for a couple of seasons, which is a tough ask for the Pozzo family, I have no doubt they will be competing in Europe. But most importantly of all, he continues to make Paul Merson look like a complete idiot. In number 1, and the best young manager in world football, is 30-year-old Hoffenheim boss Julian Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann's football career was ended at the age of 18 due to injury, and after 4 years studying business administration and sports science at university, he moved into coaching and briefly worked under Thomas Tuchel at Augsburg. He then moved on to TSG Hoffenheim and led the under-19 side to a league title. In October 2015, it was announced Nagelsmann would take over the first team the following season. However, when Huub Stevens resigned in February 2016, the 28-year-old took over early. Nagelsmann led Hoffenheim out of the relegation places and into 15th. Last campaign, however, was when the German really proved his worth, leading his side to a 4th place finish and into the Champions League for the first time in their history. Nagelsmann sets Hoffenheim up in a 5-3-2 and places great value in retaining and regaining possession, with pressing an important feature of their game. Although he is an astute tactician, he puts more emphasis on what he calls social competence, in essence man management, and has a great relationship with his players, with Niklas Süle saying, "Julian is one of a kind. He understands how a player thinks, but always exudes authority. He is an absolute expert and cannot be worked out by opponents." After beating Bayern Munich 2-0 last weekend, the 30-year-old has once again proven his managerial ability, and with the Bavarian Giants eyeing him up as Ancelotti's replacement, and Nagelsmann making no secret of his ambition to manage there, it seems inevitable that Julian Nagelsmann will soon be in charge of one of Europe's biggest clubs. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.